President Trump abruptly pulling back from launching military strikes on Iran yesterday. The strike was reportedly intended to target 3 sites related to the missile launch that shot down a U.S. drone. The president tweeting this morning, "We were cocked and loaded to retaliate last night on 3 different sites. When I asked how many will die, 150 people. 10 minutes before the strike, I stopped it." Joining us now, Yahoo Finance's Jessica Smith with the latest. So apparently the president deciding that it was not a sort of commensurate response to the shooting down of the drone. I'm trying to figure out the timing here, why it did happen at the last moment.
Yeah, that's a question that a lot of lawmakers that I've been talking to on the Hill have as well. And the big question now is, what will the president do going forward? Will he at some point respond to Iran's move of shooting down this U.S. drone? Will there be negotiations, more sanctions, or military action? How will Iran respond? The president did go on to tweet this morning that he said, "I am in no hurry. Our military is rebuilt, new and ready to go, by far the best in the world. Sanctions are biting," and more added last night, Iran can never have nuclear weapons. So there is very mixed reaction to all of this in Congress. I just talked to Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He is an Air Force veteran who still serves as a pilot in the Air National Guard. And he told me that the president should have gone through with this strike. He says it would be a mistake not to respond to Iran in this case. And I asked him about calling this off at the last minute, and he says he is concerned about that. What we're hearing from a lot of lawmakers, he's concerned, and those are questions that should have been answered in the initial briefing. But then we're also hearing from people on the other side of this debate who are very concerned that the U.S. is going to end up in a war with Iran. Democrats have been worried about this since the president pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal last year. Senator Chuck Schumer says he's worried that the administration will bumble its way into a war with Iran. And Cory Booker put out a statement this morning really blasting the president's move. He said, "This is not reality television where decisions are made in the pursuit of maximum drama. The president, together with his top officials, have been bent on escalating an already tenuous situation in the Middle East with no plan in place to de-escalate tensions." He went on to say something that we've heard from several members of Congress, that the president needs congressional approval if he wants to strike Iran. But again, lawmakers are split about that. Kinzinger told me no, he does not think the president needs approval from Congress. A lot of Republicans seem split about this, but Democrats are holding the line that the president needs to come to them if he wants to take military action in Iran. So we'll be watching this very carefully to see what happens over the next few days.
We will indeed. Thank you so much, Jess. And we're joined by today's panel now to discuss this more. Yahoo Finance's Cheung and Jared Blikre is with us on set as well. Also joining us, Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs, Thomas Callender. Thank you so much for joining us, Thomas. So we heard those comments there about us potentially blundering into war. The president has actually been resistant to a conflict with Iran. Some of his advisors, John Bolton notably, perhaps on the other side. What do you think the risk level of that is at this point?
I think the president's actions show, one, that he is being very measured and wants to take any military action, if it's taken, is proportional to what Iran is doing. At the same time, these reports came out prior to the president's own tweet. Also reports that the president had reached out to Iran via Oman, warning them of these attacks and a willingness to come back and talk. So I think this is signaling to Iran that the U.S. is willing to use military force, but also leaving the door open for talks in an attempt to de-escalate the situation also.
Well, Tom, what would be a proportional reaction? They've attacked 2 tankers. They weren't U.S. tankers. They've shot down a U.S. drone. And a previous guest in the last hour said expect Iran to escalate up.
So I think if you do see a response, it would be what the U.S. had planned to with these against radar sites and the missile batteries. However, I think the president, being briefed and updated at the last minute of probably how many military forces were there, felt that the estimation of 150 Iranian soldiers was not proportional at this time to it. So I think he's offering right now with his opportunity of talks for Iran to come back and negotiate. That's what all this maximum pressure sanctions have been about. If they don't, or if they continue to escalate with another further attack against any other unmanned drones or shipping, I think then you would see a U.S. military response. But also this provides the president and the U.S. time to, again, get our allies aboard and get the rest of Congress aboard with any of these retaliatory actions.
Hey, Tom, Brian Cheung here. You mentioned allies. You also mentioned the communications between the U.S. and Oman. I'm wondering, in the Middle East region, has the U.S. done enough due diligence with partners in that region to try to address this issue, or do you think that this is just kind of us relying singly on U.S. intelligence before we make these pretty, heavy decisions?
No, I think the U.S. has been in very constant communication with our allies in the region, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, obviously Israel, all sharing intelligence sources. I think Saudi Arabia also, you've seen the attacks that the Iranian-backed Houthis have made against various Saudi facilities. So I think the Saudis are very worried about these Iranian actions, not just against the shipping, but what has been going on via proxies against themselves. So I think you're seeing a coalition build. Even Germany, who was initially reticent, based upon the initial limpet mines, has recently come across, even before the drone strike, and saying that they felt Iran was behind this. So I think this further escalation is just going to isolate Iran, and I think will put the final nail in the coffin of any hope that the Iranian nuclear deal will remain in play from the European side.
Hi, Jared Blikre here. I'm looking at crude oil. Specifically, it has surged now 13.5% from its lows a couple weeks ago. A lot of this on the backs of the escalation in the Persian Gulf with respect to Iran. And we only this week learned that we have an OPEC Plus meeting date of July 1st and 2nd. That's right around the corner. And as crude oil marches upwards, I'm wondering if this puts Iran in kind of the driver's seat with regard to these talks. It is a consensus. Actually, it requires a unanimous vote to enact or to engage any production cuts within the next 6 months here. And I'm wondering, what is the U.S.'s response if we do see crude oil prices go higher, and how does that play into the calculus?
Yeah, so I think one key option, right, is most Americans need to realize that the U.S. is not getting its oil from the Gulf. I think it's 10 to 14% right now, but it's our other Europe, it's China, it's these other nations that are getting the oil from them, and so they need to step up and help secure the shipping through there. It's not just going to be the U.S., and I think the U.S. will be very involved in talks, and you potentially, I think, even see with President Trump meeting with President Xi very soon, that I think this will be a discussion point, is that it's not going to just be the U.S. to ensure freedom of navigation for tankers through the region, but it's going to have to be an international coalition, especially, as General Selva said, those that benefit most from the free flow of oil from the Gulf.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for your perspective. Tom Callender from the Heritage Foundation. Appreciate it.